Hello class, welcome back to English Composition 1. We are now in week 3, and this is the promised resources for this particular week. Okay, first thing I want to go over, and this is critical. In prior semesters, I had students email me on the day that an assignment was due, claiming, hey, this assignment just mysteriously showed up in my to-do list on my comp lab. I was reluctant to accept this type of an excuse because it seemed that this student had just, not made the time to do the work and was simply making excuses. However, when one of my best students emailed me, all in tears, calling me frantically, I became increasingly aware that there was a problem with my comp lab. It is your responsibility to double check all the assignments. If there's something missing, I need to know about it now, so that way I can take care of it. Now, from my end, all the assignments are created. I've already made them visible. Okay, I'm going to ask you not to go ahead because these things do need to be done in logical order. But do check to make sure that all assignments are available and that they are open, okay? There should be 10 assignments plus 3 essays. These 3 essays have the multiple drafts, okay? Obviously, you've already done 2 weeks worth of assignments, so. What we're going to go over right now is grammar, although it's really difficult to go over grammar, especially in this format. Okay, often in the classroom I'll hand out worksheets. You have your exercises available online. I'm going to ask that you do those. Okay, for more resources on grammar, I'm going to send you some links to worksheets that I normally use in the classroom to help you with this, because grammar is one of those things that you don't just learn in an afternoon. It takes practice. It takes years of learning. Okay, and I'm sorry to say this, but many of your high school teachers, middle school teachers didn't do you any favors. Okay, instead what I want to focus on is in your quick access book. Okay, section 3 or 4 here, chapters 57 through 68, which focuses on punctuation. All right, here you're going to talk about commas, semicolons, colons. Don't worry about colons. Just focus on the commas. Okay, quotation marks are important too. And using capitals for proper nouns, things like that. Okay, abbreviations, you can skip that if you'd like. But really, I'd like you to read commas, okay, and quotation marks and capitals, okay, and semicolons. So those are the ones that will be resources for you when you do your My Comp Lab assignment for week 3. All right, and that's enough of that. If you do have any questions on things like that, please email me. I'm always available to help, okay? I recognize that grammar is not easy. It wasn't easy for me. Alright? On to the more fun stuff. Okay, one of the most basic things that we learn as children is compare and contrast. Okay, we look at something and say, that's blue. We say something else, that's red. Okay? If you look at in your book here, chapter 8, here it looks at cause and that's cause and effect. Excuse me. It's actually compare and contrast. I'm sorry. Let me go there. I've decided to keep this on the video to demonstrate just how unorganized I am sometimes. It's saying cause and effect relationship, but it actually says in the book here compare and contrast. And there it is, page 121. Okay, I'm bumbling around today here. As I've said, one of the first things that we learn growing up is, compare and contrast. We might compare something that's heavy to something that does not weigh as much. We might compare someone who is of color to someone who is Caucasian, white. Okay, very, very basic stuff. Now in writing, we use brief comparisons, a sentence or two, depending on your topic, to alert readers to similarities or to highlight differences. Longer comparisons need to do more. They need to explore a subject and convey the writer's perspective. Okay. For longer comparison or contrast that explains or explores ideas, you need an ordered plan to avoid having a mere list of characteristics or frustrating jumbles of similarities and differences. Oftentimes when people use compare and contrast, they give, well, this is different from this because of this. They give just a list instead of really exploring those characteristics, okay? Don't just use lists when you're using compare and contrast. Okay, you want to work it into your essay in such a way that it would not be possible otherwise to have your essay if it was taken out. Okay, kind of like when somebody told me about science fiction. You want to make a science fiction novel as intense as you can, and so dependent on the science that if you were to take it away, it wouldn't work. Okay, many times science fiction writers will work the technology in a way where if you take away the science, it suddenly becomes a western of cowboys versus Indians. Okay, or like my favorite TV show, Firefly. What we're going to be doing this week is looking at a story called High Tide in Tucson. Okay, I'm going to get to that in a second. There are all kinds of ways and strategies that you can use compare and contrast. There are parts and processes looking at how things work compared to how other things work. Benefits, you can look at one social policy over another. I'm not going there with politics, guys. You'll find quickly nothing will put me to sleep faster. Costs, you can look at cost of processes or things like that, and different uses. Okay, so on page 121, I want you to read "Explain by means of comparison and contrast." Okay, this will help you to answer the question that I've given you for High Tide in Tucson. Okay, she compares and contrasts animals. All right. Essay 1, personal narrative, is kind of a compare and contrast essay on a turning point. You're going to be picking an event in your life and writing about it. What happened? Okay, what caused this to happen maybe? Okay, what was the outcome of this? Okay, tell me the story. Tell me a story. Use details, use vivid imagery to show me what happened. At the end, I want you to think, though, what might have happened if this event had not occurred. Okay, use your thinking. This means using critical thinking skills that I'm trying to help you guys to develop. Okay. Plagiarism. Probably my favorite example of plagiarism was a student who gave me a paper, and in this paper, the person was called to be a bridesmaid. Went out, got a nice silky dress, and I stopped reading because we were actually taking a test at the time. I looked over at the student. He is 6'4" and could probably bench press me. Something's wrong. I took him out in the hallway and I said, "Oh, do you have something to tell me?" Okay, I had help with my paper. You had more than help. Oftentimes people who plagiarize are stupid. They really are. They don't have the creativity they need to write their essay. Most of the time I will pick it up. Okay. Now for your second and third essays, I will actually be checking sources. For this one, basically it is kind of a faith-based system. Okay. If you don't learn this stuff, you're not going to be ready to move on to essay 2. So don't plagiarize. Use your own ideas. I don't want to hear any fiction stories. Obviously, if I'm trying to ask you to give me details and you're not quite sure what those details in, you can fill them in a little bit. I'm not going to call you a liar on that point, but I'm going to ask that you write a story that is based on a real event in your life, or maybe something that happened to somebody else. Okay, maybe you had a medical problem during your teenage years. Maybe you were diagnosed with a disability. For those of you military students, maybe that was a turning point, your decision to enter our armed forces, for which I'm eternally grateful. Okay. So think about these things as you are writing. Okay, pick a topic fairly quickly. Okay, I believe it's due this Saturday, or at least your rough draft is. Okay, I'm looking for 2 to 4 pages. Double space, something of substance. I like to go by word count because oftentimes it's misleading the way that my comp lab set things up. Okay, it should be no less than 1,500 words. Okay, go by word count. Essays 2 and 3. Essay 2 I think is 2,000 words. Essay 3 I think is about 2,500. But we'll talk more about that later. Okay. High Tide in Tucson is a great story. It does throw people for a loop. Okay, it really does. High Tide in Tucson compares and contrasts animals with humans, and it does so in a very interesting way. I'll give you one example. She described the hermit crab, Buster, crawling into its shell, and then she, later on in the story, talked about how she donned the shell of a yellow Renault. Same way, and she moves across the country to settle in Arizona. Okay, that's one example. Find others. There are many of them in the story. Okay, good luck. and I'll see you on Facebook.